Hi, I'm Valerie Englehart, and in this video, I want to paint a seascape with really loose atmospheric effects using fresh paint squeezed straight from the tube and a spray bottle primarily. So I've wet my paper back and front, and I am splopping on some Rockwell Canada Paliba Diamond Blue paint. And what's really important to make this work is I've picked up my paper and I am just letting it drip. And you got to give it a few, well, not a few minutes, but maybe like 30 seconds at least to really let that pigment flow, let the water push the pigment around to create those wonderful organic marks. Now, as it dries, I will get some hard lines, and really, I probably should have just left it as it is, but I have a problem with just wanting to go in and touch things and do more to them. So to create a bit of a sea spray, I pull out my spray bottle, spritz a bit of the ocean, and lift it again to let it go into the sky. And then also, I decide that I want to get that water moving a little bit more, so I lift it so that the paint drips over to the right. And really, I do keep going in with the spray bottle. Looking back at this now, I'm thinking I really should have just left it alone. It probably would have been so beautiful if I had just let it be. But you know how it is, sometimes things they seem too easy. Like, what was that done in less than a minute? Well, I sped this up a little, so maybe 2 minutes. No, it can't be that easy. So I end up going in more than I probably should have. Now, if you clicked on this video, you saw the thumbnail. It actually does look really cool in the end, but going back and seeing it, it really reminds me that sometimes the watercolor it does the work for you. Let it be. I could have always pulled out another piece of paper and done it again. If you get a really good result, leave it alone. But a lot of this painting, because I'm wanting it to be loose atmospheric and mostly work with a spray bottle, it's putting on really thick pigment, spraying it, lifting it, and letting it drip. All right, I'm now wetting the beach area, allowing some of that ocean to bleed in because I do want a cohesive transition between the land and the sea. And I'm going in, once again, spattering my paint. This is Schminke Tundra Orange. That's right. Took me a moment because it's not a paint I use very often, but I do really love it. It's a very natural earthy orange, almost like a raw sienna, but there are some pink undertones that are really beautiful. And for this technique of lifting and spraying, I do recommend granulating pigments. So all of the paints that I use, and I only use 3 paints, are all heavily granulating. In the sky, I add more of the Schminke from the Tundra line. This is Tundra Blue. And right now it looks really strong, but I know it's going to get very weak for 2 reasons. One, watercolor dries very pale, and the other is that I end up basically spraying it all off. And at this point, letting it run all over the front like that, I was like, oh, I done goofed. And I even considered just throwing this piece aside, grabbing another piece of paper and starting again. But that kind of goes against everything that I tell you all every time I post a video of, well, just keep going, don't throw it away until it's done. So I decided to take my own advice and keep working. I squeeze out more fresh pigment and I'm going in now. I'm deciding to make this more of a rough sea, or seeing if I can manipulate it to be a rough sea. I'm using an oil brush, which is not conducive for watercolor, but it does pick up that really thick, juicy pigment nicely, and I just sort of lightly tap it on the surface, let the brush dance, and then because it's wet, I just hold the paper and let it drip. The paper I am using is a Canson Heritage hot press paper, and the size is 9 by 12 inches, and it is 140 pounds, or 300 GSM for those in Europe. All right, I am loving the textures that I'm getting here. I'm lifting off a couple of spots with a paper towel, and what I'm actually lifting is not highlights. The paint that I used is very thick and sticky, and when I applied it to the paper, there were still globs of that juicy pigment, and I didn't want those to stay there, so I just was mopping up those excess blobs of paint. Squeezed out some fresh tundra orange because I did lose quite a bit of my beach. Scooping it up with that fan brush and repainting it in. Rinse and repeat, bringing it up, the entire piece of paper, spray bottle, and letting it run. And I just let the water drip on my desk and then I mop it with a paper towel, or if I have a bath towel nearby, I'll use that as well. And just let those drips run back on each other. You can really change the effect based on what angle you are holding the paper. And one of my favorite ways to add texture is to add salt. So I'm adding some salt to the foreground. And I'm not too worried about the very edges of the paper ending up a bit wonky because I can always trim those physically or digitally, which I actually do at the end of this piece. And here's a cropped version of the finished painting after it's all dried. So if you like this video, press that like button so I know to make more like it. And if you want to see more, press subscribe because I make videos every Monday and Thursday. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!